Good morning. My name is Sara Sobota, and I want to welcome you to our presentation today, From Segregation to Empowerment, the historic Myrtle Beach Colored School Museum. I'm here with Will Williams and Tia Alford. We're going to do our presentation here in the museum to let you guys know about the story of the museum, its potential, and where it might go in the future. So I am a senior lecturer at Coastal Carolina in the Department of English and also publications editor for the Edwards College. And Will and Tia?
Yeah, I'm an intern for the City of Myrtle Beach Neighborhood Services Department, and I currently oversee the historic Myrtle Beach Colored School Museum and Education Center.
And I'm an intern from Coastal Carolina University. In fact, I was given this internship from Professor Sobota. And so I'm here to help Will and the museum get off its feet.
Yeah, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with this school and the museum, we hope that this presentation will be really enlightening for you. The Myrtle Beach Colored School was the first public school in Myrtle Beach for African American children, and it opened in the early 1930s and closed in 1953. While the first public school for white children in Myrtle Beach opened in 1910, it wasn't until 20 years later that this building opened. And so at this time, we'll be able to watch a video from the early 2000s, and you'll be able to hear from the former students themselves as they're sitting outside of the original school, and you can hear just how important the school is to them and how important they believe it will be for the community.
The famous philosopher Marcus T. Cicero said, "To be ignorant of what occurred before you were born is to remain always a child. For what is the worth of human life unless it is woven into the lives of our ancestors by the records of history?" Cicero lived before the birth of Christ, but historians today continue to demonstrate a passion for documenting the past in an effort to preserve the truth and possibly gain a better understanding of our collective future. I'm Richard Green, News Director of Time Warner Cable. Like many educators and historians, members of this community are passionate about accurately recording their history and documenting their past. One effort to preserve both memories in a plain white wooden building that was a school for black children in Myrtle Beach is gaining momentum among community leaders. Known as the Myrtle Beach Colored School, the structure was located on 10th Avenue North in Myrtle Beach and was disassembled in July of 2001 to make room for road construction. While the stacks of wood and fixtures that remain stored in a warehouse may appear to a bystander as worthless debris, they mean something much different to the students who attended the school. Completing a restoration of the old school using as much of the original building as possible is a project that represents preserving a chapter of Myrtle Beach history. Although exact records are not available, it is estimated that the Myrtle Beach Colored School opened in the early 1930s and closed in the early 1950s. It is believed that the building was a Rosenwald school, built with monies from a fund established in 1917 by Julius Rosenwald of Sears, Roebuck and Company. Another philanthropist, Anna T. Jeans, helped to further the education of the children who attended the Myrtle Beach Colored School by committing funds that provided teachers to needy schools. During much of the 20th century, not only schools, but restaurants, movie theaters, beaches, even public areas like this were segregated. Before the Myrtle Beach Colored School was constructed, local black children were schooled in area churches, and prior to the time of integration, life for young black students in Myrtle Beach was quite different than today.
And I was excited when we got a chance to get out of the churches, because we were going to school in the churches. Teachers had the teachers in churches. And then they built the school, so we came into the school. And I was very excited about it.
No transportation, no buses, no carpooling.
And most of them were poor. And we had to do without a lot of things that we needed. We didn't have sufficient clothes that we needed, but whatever we had, we went to school with it anyway. And we had to walk to school, so we got cold coming and going home. Well, as I said, we made the soup. They went across the street. I don't think y'all remember Mr. R.C. Bland. But they lived right across the street there. There was a house right across the street. And we'd go over there and take all the stuff to make the soup in a big pot. And then we'd bring it back over here and serve it to the kids, the other kids.
For instance, we didn't really have a gym. We didn't have any of the other extras like art.
Down there we used to go to, and they used to take us to Atlantic Beach. That's the only place we could go in the ocean. Couldn't go in the ocean anywhere but on Atlantic Beach. Another thing they did, they used to come get the kids out of school here. The last year I was here and over to that school, they used to get them out and take them up to the Dunes and Pine Lakes Club to caddy for the members. They come take them out of school, and the principal would let them go to caddy, you know, and that's why a lot of the kids during that time didn't finish school and didn't go on, because they took them out of school. A bus would come up here and they would pick them up, go in there and pick out whatever caddies they want, take them up to the
Because the Myrtle Beach Colored School didn't offer true high school level classes, students whose parents could arrange transportation went on to the Whittemore High School in Conway. It may be due to the hardships they encountered growing up that many of today's black seniors place such a high priority on education and perseverance.
I went 1 year to Whittemore and then I dropped out. So many of us, particularly the girls, we dropped out around 9th. Some of them finished, but not all of us. Yeah. But then after being out of school 17 years, I went back to Myrtle Beach High School and received my high school diploma.
And after been out 35 years after 11th grade, I went back, me and Miss Feaster went back and got our diploma.
When I left Whittemore, I started working at the pro shop. I became a golf pro. I worked in the pro shop for 26 years. Yeah, I ran Roberts Ruth Apostle Brock Golf Course for 26 years. And I left there and I started playing senior golf. You know, I travel all over the United States playing in...
Former students of the Myrtle Beach Colored School are united in their belief that the education of future generations is crucial to their success in life. Many have words of advice that they would offer to their grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
I would have them understand that since they have so much more than I had when I was their age, that they should learn all they can from whomever they can, wherever they can.
And I'm always a competitor, and it's just like I tell my grandkids, there's no such thing as you can't.
Well, I didn't go to college. My kids went to school. I saw that they went. I had 2 girls graduated from college and a son. One got a master's last week in the University of Maryland. The other one was getting one in the University of Washington. But you know, a lot of us grew up to be very nice parents. Yeah, we raised some kids, and all of us out here, I think we are very proud of our young people. You know, we've done well with them, what we went through and what we had to go on, you know.
The former Myrtle Beach Colored School was not just a building to the black community who learned to read and write between its walls, but it was representative of a lifestyle, the overcoming of adversity, a piece of Myrtle Beach history.
And what's really going there, see how we actually feel about it. You know, growing up in this area and being students of this building, it's a proud thing. It's a proud thing. And I worked in the lunchroom so that I could get my lunch for free. And I don't remember how much it cost. It couldn't have been very much. But to be able to get it free was more exciting. You got more on your plate because you fixed it yourself, you know, and it's very historical as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it means an awful lot because it reminds me of where I went to school at, and I would like to see it continue, stand, you know, for the generation, you know.
Remembering our history and our heritage, that's what it means to me, this building.
History was made up of facts, and that the public deserved to know the facts about history. Unfortunately, history has come down to be a culmination of what different writers have interpreted what other writers have written, and not necessarily the facts fall out of that particular writing. So our efforts in trying to establish the true history, for instance, of Myrtle Beach, is to get the facts right and tell it like it actually happened.
In the past, local area residents have joined forces to preserve many pieces of Myrtle Beach history, including the All Aboard Committee, which is committed to restoring the old train depot, the Burroughs and Chapin Art Museum at Springmaid Pier, Nance Plaza, and the Rivoli Theater.
Well, it's important for them to know, you know, where we came from, the way we're going. I mean, I don't know where we're going from here. I mean, it's important for them to know our background, you know.
Girl, you've got to try to adjust and readjust in life anyway.
And the proverb now that you know everybody's real caught up with, it takes a village to raise a whole child. That's the way we came through.
Yes, it takes a village to raise a child, just as it takes an entire community to preserve a valued piece of history.
At this time, we'll kind of get a tour of what the museum looks like today. And so unfortunately, that original building was unable to be salvaged. And so a replica of the building was built, and this museum opened to the public in 2006 as the historic Myrtle Beach Colored School Museum and Education Center. And so do you want to share with them a little bit about what you witnessed?
Sure. So I became involved with this Colored School Museum when I was assigned to write a story about it for Grand String magazine. And at the time, about 2 years ago, I had never heard of it. I have lived in this area for 27 years. I am involved in the school system. I work at Coastal. I am a resident in Myrtle Beach, and somehow he's been here for 15 years and I knew nothing about it. So I was absolutely shocked. I walked in and I met Will and learned more about the resources, the artifacts, the history, the story of this place, and I was just shocked. So I wrote the article and was happy to share its story with the public, but I also wanted to take it one step further. That's when I got Tia involved, and now we have an intern that connects Coastal and the city of Myrtle Beach with it, which I think is really exciting and really important. So we wanted to just take in another channel, let more people know that this place is here and hopefully raise its awareness and also raise the potential for what it can do within our community.
And so for those of you who are unfamiliar with the museum, we're actually located on Dunbar Street, which is directly off of Mr. Joe White Avenue. In this footage, you can kind of see where we're at. We're anchored by the Beachside Chats community mural, which is able to help people locate us, as well as a sign at the corner of Dunbar and Mr. Joe White Avenue. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the area, we're actually located right in the heart of a historically Black neighborhood in Myrtle Beach, which is so important that we're able to connect in the community in that way. And so, as we said, this is a replica of the original building, and the former school is actually located on the other side of Mr. Joe White Avenue, but when the road was expanded, there was unfortunately no room to rebuild the school. There's a historical marker that still stands in that place, however. And so whenever you come to the historic Myrtle Beach Colored School Museum and Education Center, you'll see several different exhibits, which we'll go through today. You'll see a replica of the original classroom. You'll also see an exhibit on Charlie's Place, which is another exciting piece of Myrtle Beach history. And then finally, you'll see African-American history from more of a national perspective. And so you'll get a chance to look at Black inventors and other pieces of Black history from a national scale, and you'll be able to compare that to the local history that's right here between our walls.
I wanted to just point out that mural there and also the sign that's gone up. That's just in the last 2 years. For the first 13 years that the museum was here, it had a very small sign and again, very few, low awareness. And so the story of the mural in itself is really cool. If anyone has heard of Beachside Chats, it's a fairly recent campaign initiative for the city of Myrtle Beach, and the community came together at one of the beachside chats to create this mural. So it is a community-based, community-created sign and beautiful representation that lets people know where the museum is.
Right, it's definitely cool because one of my visions for the museum is to see it be a place that we not only share history, but we're connecting with the community and kind of meeting the current needs of the community, given everything that's happening in our society today. And so the mural was just a prime way that we could accomplish that.
So this aerial footage was created by the city of Myrtle Beach and Neighborhood Services, which is the branch under which the museum operates.
So here you see our lobby, and then to the right there, you'll see a little bit of the original or the replica of the original classroom. And so this was one of our facility improvements that we accomplished, mounting one of the original doors to the school on the wall, and we created a plaque with the names of the former students. So 8 former students served on the committee that spearheaded the preservation efforts of the school. Everything you see in the museum has been sourced from community donations. And so we strive and pride ourselves in being a museum that is an accurate reflection of the community, and is something that people in the community are able to come and see items that resonate with them, and more importantly, that people of color in general are able to see themselves represented on the walls of our museum. And so you'll see several different items. You'll see kind of the classroom setup, and then in the back, you'll see some items that are just more representative of the time period of the school. And then here you see the timeline, which was another improvement that we made to kind of help people piece together the multiple parts of the museum's unique history.
And you can see back in the corner that replica of the school, and there's a plaque there that talks about it not being a Rosenwald school, but built in the vein of a Rosenwald school. Is that right?
Right. So this building is very similar architecturally, but more importantly, when we talk about Rosenwald schools, we talk about how the Myrtle Beach Colored School and other colored schools throughout the country relied on the support from people like Mr. Julius Rosenwald. When there was a lack of support from state and local government, it was up to charitable people and kind-hearted people to see the need to support Black education throughout the South. And then here you see our exhibit on Charlie's Place, which is another unique piece of Myrtle Beach history, and it's actually located just a block away from the museum. It's in early stages of becoming a museum, and it'll also host small business incubator spaces. And so our hope is that through the partnership with Charlie's Place, we'll be able to get some cross-pollination as tourists and residents alike are able to see the rich African American history right here in Myrtle Beach. And then this room is National African American History, and so less specific to the Myrtle Beach area, but it's also something that's really powerful, especially for the children who come to the museum. This was all created by Mr. Doc Moore, who works at the Mary Candy Recreation Center. He worked with the after-school program children to create this, and it's just really powerful to see the children's reaction to things that they've really never learned before in school.
So that was our tour of the different spaces in the museum, and I think now we just want to tell you a little bit about the current and the future of the museum. So again, Will has spearheaded several really important and exciting and sort of current initiatives within the museum. He has created a space on social media and developed several programs, and I'll just let him tell you about a few of those.
Yeah, so I also want to talk a little bit about, before I got here, Miss Fanny Brown. She's a retired educator. She served over 30 years in Horry County schools, and she dedicated her time after retirement to come and serve as executive director of the museum. And so she worked really hard and did a lot of really great things here as well. And it's been a blessing to continue to work with her. She'll be turning 80 years old this year, and so her health isn't quite what it used to be, but her involvement is still so appreciated. And the fact that we have her backing and her support is a real blessing.
And a little bit of background on Will. Will was a student at the Academy for Arts, Science, and Technology in Horry County, an art major, and he created a piece that has echoes of African diaspora, of Gullah culture, and at his senior exhibit, it caught the eye of a local woman who purchased it and happened to donate it here to the museum. And so when it was exhibited for the first time, they had a reception for Will. Will met Miss Goings and Miss Brown, and that's when he got involved in the museum. So it's his artistry, his artwork, his passion for the culture and for history that got him here to the museum. And as you can see, it just keeps on moving it forward.
We actually have a picture of that artwork, as well as some pictures from the reception, which we'll be able to share with you guys now.
So, okay, yeah, is it gonna go? Okay, great. So this is a slideshow that takes us all the way back to the groundbreaking of the museum. And are these all, so that's the reception when it was established?
Yes, so that's from our 2006 ribbon cutting ceremony. And you see the chairwoman of the committee, Miss Mary C. Candy, there as well. So the 8 former students wearing their caps and gowns on that day. And so here is the artwork that kind of got my involvement in the museum started. And so this was a piece created from sweetgrass, dried palmetto leaves, tobacco barnwood, and then vintage leather. And so just a little bit behind the heart of the piece is talking about the Americanization of Gullah culture. So the baseball cap is symbolic of that Americanization and kind of the threats that the Gullah people continue to face as they adapt to modern circumstances. And then here's a photo from that reception whenever I had the chance to meet Miss Fanny Brown, her husband, Mr. Roddy, Miss Shirley Goings, Miss Cookie Goings, and Miss April Johnson. And so that's a photo from the reception.
And that's where it all started.
And then on the left there in the yellow is Miss Amy Wingard, who was the lady who actually donated the piece to the museum, and her and Miss Cookie actually integrated Myrtle Heights Elementary School together. So they have a really cool story of how their friendship has reconnected through this piece.
So the story of this museum, it just has so many threads that are rooted in community, they're rooted in history, they're rooted in people coming together. And so that's why I think this place is so special, and I want to make sure that people learn about it.
And so here in this video are some of our visitor spotlights. And so I love taking photos of our visitors and posting them online and sharing a little bit about their stories, you know, why they came to the museum, what they hoped to gain from visiting a place like this. And it's also cool to just see the diversity. We see people of all ages, we see people of all colors, we see people of all backgrounds. And for them to be able to engage with the history here at the museum is so important. It's not just, you know, something that, you know, people who typically go to museums, this isn't a place, you know, for a history buff. It's also a place, you know, for people who might not have ever stepped inside of a museum, who might just want to educate themselves, you know, and continue to learn and grow in our current times. And so I just love seeing the beautiful picture of diversity in that video.
And I think it's a little bit ironic that majority of your visitors are from out of town. Is that right, Will?
Right, and so that's kind of one of the saddest parts to me is that we haven't quite been able to reach the local audience as much as I would have liked to. And so, this place is so rooted in the Myrtle Beach area, but unfortunately, many of the ancestors of the school's former students have never even stepped foot into this museum. Um, we have had several visitors who've come in the museum, and they're like, wow, that's my great grandma, that's my great great grandfather, and they're just blown away that their ancestors are here represented in a museum. And so it's so important, especially for the young children of this community, to be able to come here and realize that the African American history, didn't just stop in the textbooks. It wasn't just something that happened, in other places, but it's something that happened right here in Myrtle Beach.
Right, right. And I would like to see every kid in the county come to this museum for a field trip. When COVID's over, praying that it is over sometime, I think that should be a goal that the school districts of Georgetown and Horry County bring their students right here to see our own local history.
Absolutely. And then here's a photo of me with Miss Fanny Brown, who, as I said, was the executive director of the museum, and her support and her continued advocacy for the children of the community is just really unparalleled and something to be admired. And so, as we were talking before with the diversity of our visitors, this also goes back to just intergenerational learning, and for me to be able to learn from someone like Miss Fanny, who has lived 80 years and has so much wisdom and insight. It's just really special to be able to partner with her in this way and to be able to learn from someone like Miss Fanny.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about the current programs that you've got going on, like this event?
Absolutely. So that photo was actually from our Christmas candlelight service of remembrance, which we'll kind of circle back to later in the PowerPoint. But this is a photo from the Beachside Chats mural. And so you'll see several photos here. It's actually a community initiative with the Neighborhood Services Department. And so Beachside Chats was an event that was designed to provide a space for community members to grieve, an open and safe place for them to have tough conversations about race and racial injustice and the problems that continue to really affect our society. And the heart behind Beachside Chats is just to work towards peace, healing, and racial reconciliation. And so we do that through conversations. We have facilitator-led conversation, as well as just educational programming that takes place each month in Chapin Park. And so you can see in these photos that after 6 weeks of Beachside Chats, the groups actually got to work together to paint their panel. And like I said, we have great relationships with city management and city leadership. You see there the mayor, Miss Brenda Bethune. And then here was actually the unveiling of the mural, which is outside of the museum. And so this was a great way to engage the community and let them see the museum. And so having this mural unveiling here, we also had a bit of an open house at the museum, and people were able to receive guided tours of the museum. Some more photos from the unveiling. And then the mural panel that you see on the right-hand side that says "We are here," actually community members got a chance to come and write for themselves what they wanted to accomplish and what they believed their role was in terms of racial reconciliation.
So there's quite a bit of momentum right now, and we just really want to keep that going. I think that's part of our presentation too, is letting people know that things are already happening within the downtown city of Myrtle Beach. We want to make sure that they keep on going and they spread and they expand and more people are here.
Absolutely. And this is another cool story here. These are actually strangers. Reggie and his wife Luce met Miss Linda as strangers at Beachside Chats, and they developed a really special friendship and were able to come tour the museum. And Miss Linda was able to learn things that she had never just been exposed to before, and so she took it upon herself to kind of correct some of the things that she had learned, making the difficult decision to unlearn some things and just opening her eyes to a different perspective. And so just such a special friendships, and really the relationships that develop from just the simple act of sharing history and being willing to listen to your fellow neighbor. Another initiative that we've taken on is to kind of spotlight Black-owned businesses in Myrtle Beach. And so the museum is fortunate enough to get visitors from out of state, from all over the country, and even all around the world. And so our hope is that through this initiative, we're able to curate a directory of Black-owned businesses in Myrtle Beach that we're able to provide our visitors. And so we can encourage them whenever they're done visiting us at the museum, that they can continue a cultural experience as well as stimulate some economic activity in our neighborhoods and contribute to the local livelihood of Myrtle Beach by supporting Black-owned businesses. And this is a part of our project. We worked with a local Black-owned fashion company, and they actually did a photo shoot at the museum, which was really special to kind of unite the past with the present in this way.
That's really gorgeous.
And then here was our first annual Christmas candlelight service of remembrance. And so you can see the setup we had outside of the museum, and we had candles lit in memory of the former students of the school who are no longer with us. Here's another photo of Miss Fanny Brown.
I was actually able to attend this event, and it really was amazing. It was a blending of people in a beautiful space, and the honoring of the former members of the school is just a really nice event.
Yeah, and so the heart behind this event was just to simply remember the school's former students, but as well as to provide a safe place for anyone in the community who was struggling with grief during the holiday season. And so it was cool to see the diversity that was represented in this event. And it was also a time for us to connect with ancestors of the school's former students. And so we were able to connect with them, gather some contact information, and it'll help us in the future as we continue to research and expand our exhibits, as well as just to have their support is definitely so important. And we had 3 of my friends, they were able to come and perform, Raina, Ella, and Roger. And they were able to sing several selections, which was a really special part of the event as well. Another kind of initiative or project that we're working on is a call for artifacts. And so earlier this summer, I was fortunate enough to meet Mr. Woody Elvis, who was generous enough to donate Mr. Joe White's last bicycle to the museum. And so you can see in the photo there what great condition it is. But we are having a continued call for artifacts. And one of our future plans for the museum is to expand into a second exhibit hall and tell the story beyond the colored school. And so with that being said, we are definitely in need of pictures, artifacts, memorabilia, anything that you think might have relevance or a thematic connection to African American history and culture in Myrtle Beach. And then we've also been hosting story time. And so Miss Sara Sobota, she was actually able to attend one of those story time sessions. And so I guess I'll let you share a little bit about what you've experienced.
Yeah, and I guess another dimension to this whole thing is that over the past year, Will has been working not only to raise the awareness of the museum, but having this little pandemic in the background also has not been all that helpful. So he has been He developed them over social media and did invitations and did several story times online, which was great. He was able to do a few outside socially distanced, but it always focuses on Gullah culture, African diaspora related themes. And what I really like about Storytime, as well as the whole approach of the museum, is the authenticity. So the one that I came was a book about sweetgrass baskets, and it was about a little girl and her connection to her grandma. And so he works with authors of color and selects books very intentionally that tell a story and are entertaining, but also are steeped in history. So I think it's really valuable.
Right. So I knew I wanted, the children to get books that they might not be fed in a typical classroom setting. And so they're all books of diversity, equity, and inclusion focus. We've been fortunate enough to partner with the Myrtle Beach Police Department, who donated some children's storybooks as well as some stuffed animals. And so before Christmas break, we were able to head over and visit some of our children who have attended the story time sessions and gift them each with a bag with a stuffed animal as well as 3 books. And so their love for reading can continue to be fostered during that season when we weren't able to meet with them regularly. You can see some more of our activities there. And then this was another special project we did, was to recognize the veterans throughout the area. And so we hosted an interview with Jennifer Roberts of WNBF News and worked to gather more information on students who might have possibly served in the armed forces, as well as just to raise awareness on kind of the struggles of African Americans in uniform. They face kind of the struggle of fighting for a country who isn't always fighting for them. And so just raising awareness on that struggle as well. This was a family who actually attended one of our first virtual storytime sessions, and then they came the next Monday and visited the museum, which was a really special story. I got an email from the mother who said that after story time, her daughter went to her and asked her why the color of skin matters. And so she just thanked us at the museum for the opportunity to open up that conversation in their household and to be able to have that internal dialogue with her daughter was so important. And then this was another improvement of the museum. We have new signage, which is really exciting. People are able to actually locate us a little better. And so it's just great to see kind of increased traffic from a new sign.
I think also we want to talk a little bit about Tia's involvement and some of the projects maybe that you guys are going to be working on over the next semester, right?
Absolutely.
So Tia has just started. She's had a couple sessions here at the museum, but first, could you just tell us like your impression when you first walked in and how you learned about it and what you thought about it?
Yeah, so I was looking for an internship, I believe last fall, and Sara Sobota, she actually came to me and said, there's a museum that needs extra help, and would you be interested in it? And even though I'm an English major, I thought that sounds great. So I came here, and my first impression was that it's beautiful, it's very well taken care of, and it's organized and it's clean, and I thought that this was a place that had a lot of potential, and I was very excited to start. And my biggest thing for the museum, as far as like my goal, is that I was very sad to hear that a lot of the students are, just older because the museum is so old and the school is old. And my biggest motivation for here is the fact that I think that there's a really big fear in every one of us in growing old and passing away, and the things that we really work hard for, dying away with us. And so I feel like it's kind of my responsibility to sort of help Will and the museum to sort of continue that, because as we said, Miss Fanny Brown is starting to get a little bit older, and her and all the students, it's so important that this continues. And I feel like as a young person who wants to continue this, it is kind of my responsibility to just help her continue the thing that she dedicated her entire life for. And yeah, that's mostly my thing. I really just would love to see more local people come. I was very shocked to learn that it's all people out of Myrtle Beach area, because you would think that it was the opposite. So, we really want to see more people come. We want to see this be a place that people can connect and come together, especially with things that have been happening recently with social justice reform and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel very proud to be a part of this.
Absolutely, and I've said, from starting last March at the museum, it was a really hard time for our country. We see that continue to happen in some forms, and so, I said the museum really exists for such a time as this, and that's why we're here. And I believe that the former students of the school, that's what they wanted. They wanted to see the museum be a place that people could come together, a place that was unafraid to meet people where they're at and to just have some tough, uncomfortable conversations, but ones that really are worth it, I think.
Extremely valuable, having huge impacts on people's lives and for generations. So we wanted to, I guess, close by showing you a couple of slides, one that allows you to become involved with the museum, and then a few links that are also going to help you stay connected, and also kind of show the connection to Coastal Carolina University.
Absolutely. And so if you want to partner with us, there are several ways to do that. To become an ally of the historic Myrtle Beach Colored School Museum and Education Center, you're actually able to click this link. It's linktr.ee/MB Colored School Museum. And we'll provide that as well in the description of this video. But when you click this link, there are several pages that you can visit. And so the top one is to become an ally. There's a short form that you can fill out to provide us with a little bit of contact information, and we'll reach out to you and see ways that you can get involved here at the museum. We also have our social media websites, our site on the city's website, as well as the Grand Strand Magazine article that Ms. Sara Sobota wrote. And then if you'd like to give financially to the museum, we have an Amazon wish list, which is full of storybooks and resources for the children as we continue our story time and educational programming initiative. And then lastly, we have our feature from Living Local Carolina, and so you'll get a more in-depth look at the museum if you'd like.
So we thank you for taking this time with us today, for being interested in learning about this special place. I hope that you feel like you want to have a connection moving forward. You can get in touch with Will, you can click on any of those links, and the experience of learning will continue this semester and hopefully moving forward.
Absolutely. So if you have any other questions, or ways that you'd like to get involved, feel free to shoot me an email at wwilliams@cityofmyrtlebeach.com. And we just look forward to continuing the things that are happening here, continuing our partnerships with community organizations and Coastal Carolina University. I think that's really, the lifeline for the museum.
Mm-hmm. We're going to keep that partnership on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.